The Underground, Ideas into Action presents an Underground Chat, where we bring the underground conversation to you. Today's chat, Be Strategically Inclusive, with Scott Young, Vice President of Innovation with PSCU.
So how are you doing? How's your PSCU family doing? And where are you coming to us from today?
Well, hi, Sue. Greetings from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I'm out here at the shore. I've been out here since March. It's exciting to be a part of the Underground. Thank you very much for the invitation to join you. Our family, you know, we're doing all things 2020 right now. It's given us a bit of change of scenery, which has been nice. We also have become pandemic bakers, which I don't think anybody saw that coming for us. It was kind of unique. Once we were able to locate yeast, which, I mean, who knew there would be a yeast shortage in America? But once we did that, we've been making a loaf of rosemary focaccia bread, one a day. And we've been giving it out to friends and family and neighbors and even strangers if they'll take it. And initially, I think it was our way of our attempt to stay connected during these uncertain times with people. And quite honestly, it's been unexpectedly rewarding from a connected person perspective that we really didn't anticipate.
Oh my goodness, I just love that. I've been home more, and obviously with that comes the idea that I should cook more. And we kind of started that when this first happened. And then my husband very quickly said there that we all reminded each other why I didn't cook more. But it is true, there's been these unexpected moments for all of us to come together in different ways. So will we be expecting to see, Scott Young pastries or Scott Young bread going forward?
You never know. It's one thing this pandemic has told us is that, it doesn't compute to me when someone tells me they're bored, because I subscribe to there's not enough hours in the day perspective, that line, that camp. And when somebody tells me, people that know me really well, Sue, they know that I can't sit still, whether that's metaphorically or physically. I'm not one to sit still. So yeah, to me, there's not enough hours in the day to want to do stuff. And I think that's been a really nice way to look at this new world we're in right now, and really challenging myself, my family, my team to look at the good and the opportunities in the world right now, rather than sitting and being bored.
Yes. So when you talk about your team, tell us a little bit about your role at PSCU. And I know that you bring a wealth of background. So tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. I actually was thinking about this morning. I started my payments career 25 years ago this July at First Data in Omaha. And where has time gone? 25 years. That's crazy, right? And a fun fact, when I started at First Data, my buddy rep, remember the days when we were assigned somebody to walk us around and show us the ropes? My buddy rep just happened to be the PSU account executive. And so I've come full circle back around 25 years later, joining Team PSU. But from First Data, I left after about 14 years there. I moved to the East Coast, and I joined Pentagon Federal Credit Union, PenFed, and I led up their card program and their card operations and innovation at PenFed. And then after about 8 years of that, I decided I wanted to be an urbanite, and I wanted to live in Washington, D.C. And not work in the suburbs. And so I was very fortunate to join Bank Fund staff as their VP of payments. And for those who are not familiar with Bank Fund staff, it's the credit union that supports the World Bank and IMF. And so the diversity of our field of membership was just inspiring to me. Back in my days at First Data, I kind of got the moniker of the international guy, because I was working on assignments in the UK and Hong Kong and Australia and Mexico and Canada. And that was exciting to me because I love immersing myself in other cultures. But the working with members of other cultures at Bank Fund staff was very inspiring and really gave me a new lens, a similar lens I had First Day, but a new lens into the field of membership side of the house. And then while I was working at PenFed and Bank Fund staff, all this time I was on the product advisory board for PSCU. And when Denise Stevens called and said, hey, how do you feel about Vice President of Innovation at PSCU? I said, well, I'm not really ready to move to St. Pete. Personally, I like the Washington, D.C. Mid-Atlantic area. And she's like, oh, that's okay. You can stay home. And I was like, what? I go, wait, I can live where I want to live and still be a leader? I said, that's a unicorn that just doesn't exist very often. And so I jumped on the opportunity, and I've been so excited and so happy with that decision. So I recently joined PSCU about 8 months ago.
So you got the dream job in the dream place with the opportunity to learn about virtual engagement before we were all forced to do it.
Exactly. I mean, I'll admittingly, I have the cool job, right? I do have the cool job. So my areas of responsibility at PSU, above and beyond being a leader, is that I head up the innovation ideation. I also have integration and design. So, it starts with the ideas and forming those into vetting out products or, functionality that turn into products. And then my design team comes and they put a great UI and UX on it, given the research, and then goes to the integration team and allows it to integrate into our own products or into the products that our credit unions want to consume and build the experiences themselves. So it's definitely a cool job, and I'm so excited to be on Team PSCU.
So we did this warp speed transition because we were all forced to. What do you think is going to happen going forward? Are we going to go back? Are we going to continue to push forward? What are your thoughts?
People ask that question a lot, especially when you have the innovation tag on your title. And you're like, hey, what's next, right? I'll say that I've seen a recent study that said 57%, I think it was, of consumers say they're going to go back to a traditional brick and mortar, experience. And while that seems like a large number, if you think about it, that means 43% say they like the digital experience at home now. And that's 43%. That's a huge penetration for a product and service in such a very short time. So shift happens. I think shift happened for sure. It definitely happened. And I think we're here to stay when we talk about the digital world we're living in today.
I agree. I think that because I've traveled my entire career and been out with credit unions, I've always worked remotely. But during this time, I've seen the evolution from working virtually in a kind of clumsy way to literally working virtually in a very detailed way, intimate way. We're having vulnerable collaboration, virtually. So it's interesting to me to see how people have adapted and how we literally are going to have to continue that, not necessarily 100%, but the idea of a seamless member experience, because as we know, everybody's gotten used to or wants that pace or that ability. So when you think about that, that credit unions are our social mission and how important it is that we establish those personal connections. So how do you see that evolving, Scott? From where we are today, completely virtual, to that hybrid, if you will, that our credit unions are pushing forward on. What does it look like for the mission, for the members?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question, Sue. It's one that, as an industry, we really need to pay attention to. I think that really, if you view technology as an extension of the service that our members are used to us giving them at a credit union, everyone knows the loyalty of a credit union member to their credit union is a lot stronger than a customer to a bank. So I think we can't be scared of the technology. I think we need to embrace it and to customize it. So our members, let's say it this way, if we don't, our members are going to go elsewhere where they're receiving what they want. So when I say shift happened, it did. And so it may not be too late if you don't have a valid, vibrant and viable digital experience. It's not too late. You can still get one. But I'll say that being connected to the member and building out things that are relevant and personable digitally is important. So no one knows our members better than we do, right? We talk to our members, we survey our members, we get feedback, we get scores, etc. We know what our members want, and we need to continue that pulse point with our members to understand that. That said, when we know what our members want and we maybe perhaps created journeys or mapping out experiences, we need to understand, is easy the new loyalty? I think it is. I use that term frequently to mean that we're in a culture of immediacy right now. We want things now. And, I equate this to, several years ago when we all signed up for Amazon Prime and we were guaranteed packages to our door the next day. Then during the pandemic, that next day may have slept to 2 or 3 days. And we're like, hey, wait, what? Now we gave Amazon a pass, right? Because you're in a pandemic. But now we're 6 months into it and packages still haven't come all the time the next day. So our behaviors have changed, wanting things now. So when you look at your digital experiences, I strongly encourage everyone to map out that journey. How hard is it to do business with your credit union? My former teams know that I love the analogy of, I want to know every left turn and right turn a member can take when they're inexperienced. And the reason that's important to build that repository is because if you don't know every left turn and right turn, and you're trying to enhance that experience, you'll miss something. You'll miss something that's very, very important. So it's important to document out the experience and understand where there might be pain points. Keeping easy as the new loyalty as your mantra, then how do you enhance that experience? And not every experience, Sue, is going to be the same for every member, right? So when I mentioned earlier that we have the design team here at PSCU, they look at personas. They try to match out what a diverse persona would look like. And not only do we do that, I see you smiling, but not only do we do that from a membership perspective, but we have a diverse group of employees creating those personas as well, because you really need to tap into that diverse intellect. And so that's very important to build out the personas, to understand how to enhance the journey for our members. And if we don't, our members are going to look elsewhere for something that is easier to do business with.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to diversity in just a minute, but something you said really resonated, and I wanted to follow up with you. With the mapping, the journey mapping, if you will, of our member experience and really taking a look at that, how critical is it to have business partners that are part of that solution? Because a credit union mapping it out is highly dependent upon all those different paths you were just referring to. And so you talked about persona, you talked about PSCU's role. How critical is that going to be going forward?
Yeah, easy as a new loyalty isn't just for members, right? It's also for your partners. I mean, how easy is it to do? How easy is it to integrate into your systems or your own experiences? So that's a very important aspect to think about. I've talked to many credit unions lately that are trying to enhance their experience, and there's roadblocks. There's roadblocks depending on who they're doing business with. At PSCU, we firmly believe we want to give you the tools to create your experience, and we'll help you as much as we can be your champion to make that process as easy as possible. I mean, with the integration team alone, we have very talented people that will consult with the credit unions to say, what are you trying to accomplish, and how best and how quickest do we get to that so you can put something in market? It's a very collaborative approach that it's paramount in this day and age. So I think you're spot on when you say that there's disparate platforms that may not talk well to each other, and strategically that needs to be a discussion in your own shops to say, who are we partnering with? Who can give us the most and timely. Timely is a very big, I mean, back to my culture of immediacy comment. Saying that you want to change something and being told that's an 18-month change to change a sentence in an online experience. So say that, for example. No, that does not work. That does not fit this world we're living in right now. We see fintechs, we see other large banks moving much more nimble. And yes, banks may have much larger budgets than we do, but there are tools out there that get you that nimbleness and get you that integration to create your own experience that you can leverage. So definitely it is a strategic thought to consider who you're doing business with and how nimble and adaptive they are.
And as I think about 2021, we've recognized that 2020 is going to probably, and most likely, continue in the environment we're in. And as we start to prepare for 2021, whatever that looks like, it may be prolonged as well. But the items that you're referring to take an investment of talent, they take an investment in technology, and we're going to be navigating some of the toughest potentially financial issues that we've encountered, and because it's so widespread with unemployment and all those things. So I find the talent of what it's going to take and the diversity of thought of what it's going to take. So, we often look at the DEI initiative as a social change, which it obviously is, and it's the foundation. But it's also being able to have the talent around us to navigate this future and to get, somebody reminded me that we have the left brain and the right brain, and we need all of that brain power coming together to be able to solve some of these issues. So PSCU, as you are part of and I know of, has a very strong commitment to employee resource groups and some of the work that you're doing there. So how does that all come together to integrate DEI into what we see for the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think you know me well enough to know that my heart is in DEI, hook, line, and sinker, just like it is the credit union movement. Honestly, in this new world we're living in right now, employers now have an extended work pool of talent, to leverage because we are remote. PSU is a very progressive company. We have many remote individuals like myself who can work from anywhere. And that pool is increasing now in this new world we're living in. And similarly, employees have a much more diverse options, right, to who to go to work for. So I think it's important for a progressive and ethically responsible company to embrace the DEI practices. I mean, I think that just makes sense. It's going to be much more attractive to an employee that wants to bring their true, authentic self to work, wants to be appreciated for their uniqueness and their diverse opinions and knowledge. That's just what makes it better. So selfishly, as I mentioned earlier, in the innovation and the ideation stage, we can't just have some people coming in and developing products and services in a silo. If you don't attack it through a diverse group, you're not getting those outside opinions. And then therefore you may be creating products and services for some people, but not all people, right? And the credit union ethos isn't some people helping some people, right? It's all people helping all people. It's people helping people. So I think attacking diversity and inclusion and bringing those in to your organization is just going to help drive innovation, different thoughts, different experiences. And I think that's a paramount way to think about DEI from a business perspective today. That said, and I know you know our Chief Talent Officer, Lynn Heckler, what an awesome person she is. We have recently escalated and expedited, I should say, our movement into DEI. We have recently, even though we've been very pioneering in PSCU and our ERGs and really, leading the credit union movement in the DEI initiatives, we have changed from ERG, so employee resource groups, to BRG, business resource groups. And really the difference there is now we're part of the overall business strategy and helping make that happen. So talk about inclusion. We're actually tapping our employee resource groups in a business manner and calling them BRGs now.
So that sets the stage for a conversation that may once have appeared to be people getting together for kind of a happy hour or an opportunity to share their stories and their journeys and then feeling stronger together, to feeling stronger together and truly being recognized that is a strength of the organization. It becomes a pillar of the organization. I find that I think it's a very powerful way to ensure the conversation continues, that it's not event driven.
You know, a really great example of this, Sue, and I think perhaps Lynn Heckler shared this with you on her underground chat previously, but I think it bears repeating. And that is Lindsay Owen, who I know you and Zach are very familiar with, is my co-leader for PSC Unity. And I co-lead that business resource group for our LGBTQ plus employees. And with the unfortunate events surrounding George Floyd's murder, in late May, Lindsay and I were all set to come out with Pride Month on June 1st. And I called Lindsay and I said, Lindsay, we've got to pull the BRG leadership together. We cannot come out June 1st with Pride and be insensitive or appear insensitive. We currently wouldn't intentionally be insensitive, but it would appear perhaps to be insensitive to what's going on around us in the world. And she wholeheartedly agreed. We called Lynn. Lynn called an emergency meeting, and we put together, an action plan with our brothers and sisters over in Sankofa, which is our African American Black business resource group. And then Chuck Fagan went out, our CEO, and did a incredible emotional employee-wide video that he admittingly said was the hardest video he's done in his 5 years as CEO, and the most important one. And in that, Sue, he called to action and said he asked all the BRGs to stand up and deliver to help us out at this time. This is a CEO of a large tech company telling everybody, employees, look to your BRGs for support right now. And BRGs, we rallied. It was an emotional time. It was a draining time, for sure, for certain. But if we didn't have that BRG structure at PSCU during this summer, I don't think we'd be doing as well as we're doing today.
Well, I commend you for the work that you're doing. And one of the things that if we have, we kind of dig deeper, whenever we have, my background and some of my support has been in the gender balance and looking in that area. And I know that we have been working with you in the LGBTQ plus area and learning more about how this affects us. But when you layer that, you realize that these issues that are happening to all of these communities. So the poverty and the pandemic and the social injustice is even, more impactful, if you will, on some of our vulnerable communities. So I think all of this work is predicated on the fact that we're trying to lift each other up and all of us learn. And I've told Zach many times, and I've told my team many times, that I'm listening and learning probably more than in any time in my life. And it's fascinating to be part of that journey. So I appreciate people that are being vulnerable and standing up and being part of it.
Absolutely. So, vulnerability right now is a skill set every leader should have. It just is. Here's a great example of that. Since I recently joined PSCU, it was unfortunate, but fortunate at the same time. My very first department meeting with my 3 teams and their staffs was to talk about the racial injustice going on with the George Floyd murder. I hadn't even met most of the people in my division at that point. We hadn't even done introductions at that point. Instead, we pulled everybody together and said, hi, I'm Scott, I'm your leader, and how do y'all feeling right now, right? And we sat down for an hour, and Sue, I wish we would have recorded it, honestly, because the vulnerability that everybody showed during that time, the emotions that everybody were having at that time was incredible. And nobody looked at layers, nobody looked at positions. We were all humans and we were talking. And then fast forward the next month when I had my second one and said, hi, I'm Scott, I'm your leader. Let's get to know each other, right? And I said, but I kind of feel like we already met, right? And it was very unique. So I echo your sentiment saying that leaders must be vulnerable. I don't have all the answers. And I think that's also a vulnerable trait, is admitting you don't have all the answers. But you said it best, learn and listen, listen and learn.
Okay, so challenge the industry. What 2 ideas and actions do you think we need to be doing at this time in our history?
So I watched all the Underground Chat, Sue. I knew this question was coming. I did.
Woo!
Right, so, well, one, I'm just going to go with my slogan, which is easy is the new loyal, right? So use this as a cultural mantra, whether it's your internal policies, your systems tools, if it's your client external facing products and services, from retaining top talent to growing your field of membership. The fewer the steps, the better. So that's my number 1. Easy is the new loyalty. Number 2 is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you're currently not embracing these practices today, it's time to start. Start familiarizing yourself and engage your teams. And as a collective, we're much more powerful if we embrace diverse backgrounds and people can bring authentic self to the movement. As I said earlier, credit unions aren't helping some people. We're the big tent. All people helping all people. There you go.
Well, thank you very much. And I realized the timeline of you starting at PSCU. So it must have been like the 3rd day you were there that we were reaching out to you to get involved in the CU Pride movement. So I'm thinking that be careful when you raise your hand around the credit union world, huh?
Like I said, Sue, I can't sit still very well. So sometimes I overextend myself, but I'm a big fan of CU Pride. Zach is doing an amazing job. We're just shoulder to shoulder. It's like we've known each other for 3 or 4 years. It's been fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to how PSCU and CU Pride can continue on our partnership.
Who am I? Have you already assumed that you know the kind of person I am based on my outward appearance? But what if I look like this? Do you know me now? You can assume based on the color of my skin, gender, the way I dress, or the accent I have that you know me. But who I really am and what I can bring to this team is so much more. What I can offer is limitless when I can bring my whole self to work, being valued and embraced because of my unique perspective. I may be differently labeled, but I am uniquely abled. Now, we could go on being strangers or making wrong assumptions, but that doesn't seem like a good way to run a company now, does it? Instead, what if we get to know each other? Not based off of bias, but who we truly are, sharing ourselves and inviting others to do the same, and appreciating, engaging, and valuing each other. Our true strength comes from leveraging our differences for the greater good of our cooperative. Inclusion means everyone, including you. And together, we are PSCU.